Revolution from your bed. We are back to a new one, but this time it's a bit different because my guest is no other than my own sister, Chen. Chen is a 25-year-old instructional design expert. That's how can I define your
I don't know about the expert, but I'm an instructional
professional?
designer.
And she's from Israel and now living in Vienna. And I wanted to have you over because you're my sister, but also because for me, you're a very interesting person. I don't know a lot of 25-year-old who just leave everything behind and go live in another country, let alone a country with a very interesting history in regard to us, the Jewish people. And I'm super excited to have you here and welcome. And I want to start by asking you, why the heck did you move to Vienna at 25?
That's a good one. So ever since I remember myself, actually, I don't know when it started exactly. I always had a dream of living abroad. I just knew it was going to happen at some point. I didn't know where, I didn't know when. I don't even know what started this idea in me. I just knew it was going to happen. And I think it was pretty natural for me because it was always kind of around me. Maybe you talked about it in previous episodes, maybe you didn't, but we always had a lot of family abroad. We always had the uncle from America.
Yeah.
It was kind of surrounding us. So I think maybe this is where it came from, and I was always so attracted to. I was watching like English kids shows and not the traditional like Hebrew ones, and I was always kind of attracted to more foreign cultures.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a big word for saying that I really liked American TV shows and the American culture. So I think this is kind of what started this idea. So it was always kind of inside me, and I always knew it was going to happen at some point. As I said, didn't know when, didn't know how. And then life kind of just rolled around, and it was still always in me, but I didn't have any plan of how I'm going to do it. And like, long story short, I guess we'll go more in depth later, but like, long story short, I went to college in Israel, and then I was about to finish, like maybe a year and a half before I finished my degree. I was kind of starting to thinking about it more seriously because I knew that once I'm done with college, I have no more obligations in Israel. I don't have to stay in Israel. I can do whatever I want, pretty much. So I started thinking about it more seriously when I was about a year and a half into college. And then I started kind of planning. Honestly, it was a lot because of you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would just move to any other country. As I said, I knew it was going to happen. I didn't know when and where. I just kind of went with the flow, and because you were here for so many years and I loved Vienna, and I knew that moving here and not somewhere else would be much easier for me. I think it was kind of the base of the decision of moving to Vienna and not somewhere else, but it was still coming from my deep interest in living abroad. And Vienna was just kind of like you living here was just kind of kickstarting it for me. So this is a very, very short way to explain why I came to Vienna at 25.
But like, it sounds easier than done because a lot of people dream about moving abroad or just spending time abroad. We have this tradition in Israel in the last 20 or 30 years that we have to go to the army, we have a mandatory army service, and then we finish the army service, and people go abroad for anywhere between 2 to 6 months usually, some people long, some people shorter. But then they come back. And when you come back, you're like, okay, I finished having fun in life, now I go to uni. because we start uni so late because we do the army and then we travel. So the average age of starting university in Israel, as far as I know from the last few years, is 25 for males, 23 for females. It was even higher. And in the last few years, people realized that economy is kind of hard, so they start earlier. But then you finish university in your late 20s, basically, and then you start life. But when you're in university, it's not like some of our listeners are from the US or Europe. It's not like you're a young person without any care in the world living in a dorm, and like most of us have to work. Some of us has to work full time while studying, and it's a very different experience. So coming here to Vienna for you was actually maybe kind of a step back, right? Because you already had a job in Israel, in your profession already, with some years of experience. So basically you have to kind of take a step back. So maybe you're improving the quality of life because Vienna is cheaper than Tel Aviv, for example. Israel is very developed. We have everything we need, but so you can do more with your money, but you don't know a lot of people. It's hard to find a job and so on. So what do you think about that aspect?
You said a few things. I'm going to start with the first thing you said. You said it's easier said than done, but for me, and also because I planned it for over a year, as I said. So I had a lot of conversations about it with my friends and people around me. And the first thing people always told me when I said that I'm really considering moving abroad after college was, wow, you're so brave. Now, I will admit that I'm a person who is hard with compliments. Like, it's hard to compliment me. I always like, yes, but in this case specifically, it wasn't about like not being able to take the compliment. It was about, I think I was so programmed into doing it because I wanted it for so many years that I just kind of grew into it. Literally, I just knew it was going to happen. As I said, didn't know when and where, but I just knew this is something that I have to do. So I feel like when I got to the point where I'm actually planning it and telling it to people, it was so weird for me to hear that I'm brave, because for me, it was the most natural thing in the world. And moreover, I got to a point, and it still happens to me with people, I got to a point where I was having conversations with people about moving abroad, and I was so into it, and I thought, I always knew it was going to be the most amazing experience for me, like such a different experience, like experience living somewhere else and starting over and meeting people from all over the world. And like I had like an image of how this thing is going to be, and I thought it was going to be amazing. I was sure about that without even knowing what I was going to do here. But when I was talking to people about it back in Israel, like after they were telling me that I was brave, I was like, yeah, but don't you want to do it? And then I kind of became judgmental towards people who told me that they don't want to do it. It kind of started feeling weird for me to hear people are just want to stay where they were born, which is not a bad thing at all. I think it's more common to just grow up somewhere, maybe leave your hometown and go live in another city. But like, this is not a natural need or want for most people, I think. But for me, since I was so programmed into doing it, I was like, how come you don't want to do it? Like, isn't it like the most natural thing in the world? So to answer your question, I think this is what, like you said, easier said than done. Then I think this was what made it easier for me. I think this is the first time in my life where I wanted something so bad, and I felt like everything I did just aligned with it. Like, of course, I physically did stuff to make this happen, and I will talk about them, but I feel like this is the first time in my life where I feel like, besides the physical things that I've done, like finding a job that is remote and like planning everything to like be able to move here, I feel like this is the first time I sent, it's going to sound very spiritual, but I sent this energy to the universe that I want to do something so better, and just everything like aligned with it. Like things just aligned with it, and I feel like this is the first time it happened to me. So like,
maybe vividly, or
yeah, we just like everything just kind of sorted out. And I have to say that, as you talked about the big trip that people do after the army, and I actually didn't do it. I didn't do it like the traditional way. Most people I know just finished the army, saved some money, and just went to South America or the East and just did like a few months of trip at least. And this is something that I realized I don't want to do very early.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. Till this day, I have no idea why I was so different than anyone else my age. It's not like I didn't want to see the world, and I still want to be in South America and the East, and I haven't got the chance yet. But something about doing it right after the army and like spending all your money on it was just not like, I was just not into it. So I think I remember my friends from home talking about it, and like kind of in high school still, and talking about like how they're going to do it, and like the natural thing for me was just to join them, right? And I was never into it. And eventually I have a group of four. We're a group of four best friends since the first grade. I'm very proud to say that. So my three best friends are my best friends since the first grade, and we grew up together. So they planned the trip to go to South America right after the army since high school already, and I just knew I wasn't going to come with them. And I feel like, especially in your teenage years and your young 20s, it is such a weird thing to not go with the flow, because you have this peer pressure to do everything. And I kind of just got over it. And I told them very early into them planning it that I'm not joining. Don't take me into account. I'm like, I'm not, don't count me in. I'm not coming. And I'm still, so I didn't do my big trip. So I feel like this, I had like this vision of what I want to do in life. And this was one of them. Not that it had to like conflict, like me going to South America and moving here. But I kind of, the point is that I feel like I was always a little bit different than the people around me. I always thought kind of different. I always had extreme ideas of like doing stuff, and I always knew that I wasn't going to do the traditional like life path that everyone is doing, which is, as you said, is very different in Israel, because you have the army and you go to college later, and it's very different. But I knew that I was not built to it. And I think being here made me realize that even more, that I'm just different than other people I know in a lot of aspects. You can argue if it's a bad thing or like a good thing, but I just knew it was different. Like I knew it because of the response that I got from people that I told them that I'm moving abroad. Like, very quickly this like enthusiastic response switched into, okay, and what are you going to do there? And what are you going to like, how are you going to meet people? And it's like, you're going to start over. And I was like, these are very justified questions. But honestly, I had no idea why I was coming here, what I'm going to do, but I just knew I had to do it. And I think the fact that I grew into it, and the fact that I was different, and I had different vision for my life path than people my age and people I know, most of them at least, is kind of what made me just like, it was so natural for me to come here and do this move. And I hope it answers the question.
It's so interesting because I felt the same, and I was judged for it. Like first of all, I didn't want to do what other people want to do. And of course, I had only a brief window of time when I was feeling kind of okay enough to leave home that I thought, okay, now it's time to decide. because I was discharged from the army because of illness, and then I had this period of time when I was feeling awful but still not bedridden. But to be honest, like, it's very easy to say I didn't travel because of illness, but to be honest, I didn't want to. I really liked my um, home, my town, my friends. I really liked being involved in the Red Cross activities and my charity work, and like everything that I did was feeling meaningful to me. And I think that it's interesting when you grow up in a society that everybody kind of is a bit indoctrinated into doing the same. Like when our parents finished their army service, it was not common to go to university. But now everybody, like, you have to go to university, even though I think that the research, like the studies showing that around 60% of everybody in Israel that has a job is extremely overqualified to what they do. So I'm not even sure, unless universities changed, and I talked about it in one of the episodes, I'm not even sure we need these degrees. But it's so funny that people who are doing anything different are immediately judged. And in my opinion, it's because people are kind of deflecting and projecting their fears onto you because they are not brave enough to do it, or it triggers something in them. And I had it too. In any stage of my life, but especially when I've decided to come to Vienna, and I was already, in my 30s, and I broke up with my ex after a long relationship, and then everybody told me, okay, you have to go on with your own track of life, and I just left everything and came to Vienna. Also by whim, kind of, I had this feeling that I have to do it. I had just had a talk here, and they invited me to come again, and then over the around 2-3 months, I flew maybe 5 or 6 times to Vienna until I finally moved here. And even when COVID started and everybody left, like I had a group of international friends and only one stayed, everybody left. I just had this strange feeling. Some people say it's spiritual. Some people say that it's like something that aligns with where you are in terms of your personal development. But I knew I need to stay, even though you pay a lot of prices. And I had really good life in Israel. The entrepreneurial spirit and ecosystem is huge. So you can basically meet every day somebody for a coffee, which is amazing and can be easily a podcast guest, because people are amazing and entrepreneurial and warm. And there are events all the time and people are inviting you over. And when you come to a new country, you're an immigrant. It doesn't matter how famous you are or successful you are. And this is something I want to ask you, because eventually you did university and you decided to come here, but it's not the easiest choice to come here in the social aspects. Do you feel that this is something that scares you still, or did you find your group already in those 3 months you're here?
So I have to say that when I left Israel, it was, just to clarify, I left 4 months ago, so it's pretty new still. But I feel like these 4 months have been incredible. And even if I'm going to go back to Israel tomorrow for some reason, I'm never going to forget these 4 months. And I said it after the first month and the second month. And like, I think this experience is just, it's big no matter how long you're doing it for. I have to say that I left a very good life in Israel in terms of comfort, in terms of the social aspect, and especially because I did it right after college. So my like social circle kind of grew in the past few years, obviously because you go to the army and you go to college, so you automatically meet so many people. And besides my best friends from hometown, I met a lot of cool people in college, and my social circle it grew. And I met people here and there. Like I left a very good social circle in Israel. And if something terrified me in moving here, I think the only thing that literally terrified me was the social aspect, because as much as I'm an independent person and I don't mind doing anything on my own, from going to sit at a coffee shop by myself or living alone, or like I'm very independent and I'm very comfortable in my own company, but still I'm a very social creature. And if I don't have my at least 2 to 3 social meetings, events in a week, it could be a coffee with a friend, it could be just breakfast, it could be anything, I'm just not feeling myself. So this was something, I think the only thing that really terrified me, of course I had other concerns because you have a lot of concerns moving to a new place, but this was something that I was very afraid of, especially because Austria and Vienna specifically is known for not having a lot of young people. Maybe they are, but like Austrians, I think, are just known for not being very friendly. I haven't experienced it so much yet. I have to say that I did meet some people here, and I have my social group, but they're all Israelis, or like half Israelis, half Austrians. So it's like it's not the same as making friends with Austrians. So I'm still working on that, but I did kind of found my place here in terms of the social aspect, and I'm still working on it because I feel like as a part of the experience you have to like branch out and meet people that are not from your culture. It's a part of doing this whole experience, I feel like. So I will say that I like in the social aspect, it was something that I was terrified from. I left a really good life in this aspect in Israel. And in the non-social aspects, I feel like life in Israel are comfortable, not because they're not cheaper, they're hard. There's a lot of pressure for you, especially in the financial aspect of like you have to make enough money to not even survive, but like if you want to live in Tel Aviv, you have to like if you don't make this amount of money, then you cannot do anything. You cannot rent a place, you cannot go out with friends, you cannot do anything. So, but my point is that I feel like the life that I had in Israel they were comfortable because this is the only thing I knew, right? Like this was the only thing I grew into it. Like I had no problem staying there I did, but like theoretically, this was the natural thing to do, to just stay in your comfort zone, right? It's like it's what most people will do. And like no offense to them, I think it's natural. But as I like to continue maybe my answer from your last question, I always had kind of a problem with the traditional life path that people took. And you said that you also felt like you didn't want to go to South America. One of the things that I feel like I was the kind of like made me not want to go to South America and do the big trip was that this big trip idea after the army, I feel like a lot of people do it because they want to find themselves, right? It's like, it's a very known thing in Israel. Like, I'm going to find myself. So I'm going to see new places and meet new people. And I'm going to find some answers for things that I'm not sure about in my life. And like on paper, you think, okay, this is like what I'm doing here, right? Like this is the same thing. And I think it's a really, really good thing to do. But I don't think you can find yourself in a 6 to 8 month trip. You're not going to find anything. You're not going to find anything in general, never. Like I feel like these questions that you're seeking for answers to in these trips, you will never really have like one answer to. And as much as it's a really good I think this big trip thing is mostly for fun and you cannot really find those answers. And I feel like it is too early for people to seek these answers, and they didn't gain a lot of life experiences until the point that they went to this trip. And I'm kind of concluding everyone in this in what I'm saying, but it's not like, it's not what I mean. It's just like, in general, this is what I think. I feel like people until the point that they're going to South America or the East or to their big trip, they didn't know anything about life. They didn't do anything. They went to the army, maybe they worked a little bit, they went to high school. But this questions that you're seeking for their answers, which you may call self-development, like a form of self-development, I feel like you always do it. And I don't think those like 8 months or 6 months are going to answer all your questions. And I feel like, in other words, people are looking to self-develop in these things and in these trips. And I feel like this is something you cannot just check and do in one big trip. You get what I'm saying, right? And I knew it was something that is a continuous journey to find, like, it's a continuous journey to find answers to these things. And I feel like I'm now in my big trip era in my life. And I feel like now I know more and I experienced more. So the things that I'm going through here with my life experience at only 25, but with my life experience are more significant. Like, I find much more answers to my big questions than what I think I would have found in my early 20s during this trip.
That's super interesting, and it resonates with me because I feel firstly that people around the world who are not doing military service, and in some countries, like I met people that are very similar to us in terms of maturity, like Finn people from Finland, Finnish people, or Swedish, or Taiwanese, or South Korean people who have to go to do some sort of mandatory service, but usually it's a short service. Even in Austria, you have to do civil service, and some men do still the army service, but the army here is a very small, mainly humanitarian aid kind of avalanche rescue kind of force. So when you're actively participating in some sort of war defense efforts, I think that you really have to kind of wash it out. And a lot of people feel that they have to do this trip. The problem I see is that, it became like a meme. Everybody's doing exactly the same. They sleep in the same hostels. They do the same routes. They meet the same people. It's became an entire industry already. And it's very rare that people are really doing something unique. And if somebody haven't done it yet, I highly recommend. There is this classic book by Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist, which is talking exactly about this. Like, it doesn't matter where you go, you always take yourself with you. I felt that I'm ready to really travel and be open to meet new people and new cultures, and not find myself, but search for more inside and grow those demanding areas. Only when I was in my late 20s, to be honest. Of course, I was in bed and I did a lot of self-development from there, but the actual travel, I think, is just a symbol of freedom. Yeah. And like, I did my after army 3 months travel only when I was like, I don't know, how was I, like 31-year-old or something like this. And it was extremely physically hard for me because of my disability, and mentally hard, but it was nice. And I remember a lot from it. But to be honest with you, I think that it demands much more bravery to not have a time frame. That you say, oh, I'm here for 3 months with an option to do 6 months. And I save this amount of money and this is my budget. But to actually move to another country, to actually have to make your own living, to deal with bureaucracy. You said that Austrians are not famous to being nice. They're very polite, but most Austrian I've met, they're lovely people. They're extremely progressive, but they already pick their friends around high school, some of them university, but mainly around high school, and that's it, kind of. It's very hard to penetrate, but when you're in, you're in. And Vienna is considered both the best city to live in the world and the most unfriendliest city in the world. which is exactly this duality is what I feel every day in my life here. And it's a wonderful city, but again, it's not this expat paradise like you see in some places in Portugal or in Berlin or Barcelona, or there are a lot of places around the world like Bali or Thailand or Vietnam. The people are there. There is a huge community of expats. There are magazines for experts, meetups for experts here. Yeah, of course, there are here and there some meetups and so on, but I think that what you did is a bit different, because when I came here, I didn't know anyone. And when you came here, you kind of said, I'm making myself at home and I am growing here. For me, it was more like not an escape, but like a recovery. I think I needed to heal. And when I came here, I wanted to kind of be left alone, because I think I'm a kind of an extroverted introvert. People think I'm a complete extrovert, but like, to be honest, like now we're recording this episode, it's weekend, and I used to just meet a lot of people and so on. But now, like, I'm so exhausted because I just finished my speaking tour. You've been with me in London in my last talk. I'm completely exhausted. Even when I sit here, maybe when people watch us in the video, they see I'm not very comfortable. It's because I have pain. I'm not feeling well. It's part of chronic illness. You came here and you made yourself very comfortable. And I wanted to ask you, um, what are your plans? Because you're not the person that is just coming to a place or starting a project without any plans. So, like, what do you think you're going to do here?
So it's a good question because it's interesting. My whole life I was kind of the planner. I always had physical planners and I always had lists and I was very organized and I always knew it was from the smallest like things in life to the biggest ones. I always had lists of things that I wanted to do and like plans in my head, and I always kind of knew what my next step is going to be. And coming here, I think it's the first time I have no idea what my next step is. The first time in my life, in my pretty short life, but still. I mean, when I was done with high school, it was clear that I was going to the army like everyone else. And when I was done with high school, with the army, I just started. I knew I wasn't going to travel, so I just I found a job and I worked there for 2 years until I started college. And then I started college, and I was like, I mean, you have. I had plans for like the first half of my 20s. And I always knew I was going to finish college when I'm 25, but I had no idea what I was going to do after. Like I knew that I was going to work probably, but then that what's got me into like the usual life path that I wanted to escape from. And when I say I wanted to escape from, it's not, I didn't come here because I wanted to escape my life in Israel, or that I had something bad that happened that I wanted to escape from. Not at all. It was mainly, it was only for good reasons. And as I said, I left comfortable and very social life in Israel. So it wasn't a form of escape for me. But to answer your question, I think this is the first time in my life where I have no idea what my next step is. And because I was so programmed, as I said, to do this move and just come here or wherever, just live abroad, I feel like most of my efforts in the past few years is just we're just concentrating in making this happen. And it's kind of when you wait for something for so long and then it happens and then you're like, now what? So as much as I try to enjoy like not only the end result, but I try to enjoy like the way to it. As much as I enjoyed planning my move here and sorting everything out, and I really enjoyed the way. When I came here, I was here with my mom for the first 2 weeks. She kind of helped me organize everything, and she was with me. And when she left, I was like, okay, you wanted to move abroad your whole life. Now what? Like what's gonna happen next? Like what is your goal? And then I told myself, okay, I'm a planner. I like lists. Let's just, you have like this whole new setting right now. This is a very, that might be very inspiring to you, like new place, new people, new environment. This can maybe lead to maybe achieving some goals that you wanted your whole life, or like just like write down things that you want to achieve while being here. So when you complete them, you know that you cannot move out of here before you completed everything on that list. And for some reason, something in me just didn't let me sit down and write this list. Like I always had it in my head, like, okay, I want to meet some international friends. I want to run 5 kilometers without stopping. I want to find a job and maybe go to school here, like take some courses. I have like maybe a structure of what I wanted to do, but never really in detailed. And something in me just never really let me sit down and write that list. And I had a conversation with one of my friends here a few weeks ago, and I told him about this, about the list that I never wrote, and I really want to. And he also moved here. He's Israeli, and he also moved here. And he's pretty new here, and he's also into like making like fun experiences and making the most out of his stay here. And he told me, just live it. You don't need this list. Just live and be present, and you'll see that if you're willing to go out of your comfort zone, which you already did, you're just going to, you don't need this list. You can just make the best experiences without even planning them. Just say yes to stuff and enjoy your time here, and don't think about your next move. And I think this is, as I said, it's the first time in my life that I have no idea what my next move is. I am looking for, I work remotely from Israel, so like it's not that I'm not doing anything here. I try to enjoy my time here. I am looking for a job right now because I do want to have the experience of working here also. I think it's very important in order to fit in the society here, and just like, it's also a part of the experience, I feel like. But I kind of let go of the plans for the first time in my life. And at first I was very anxious about it, because like, I don't know, I have no idea what's going to happen next. Like, what am I doing here? Like, and I still have these moments, but I try to remind myself on a daily basis, even a few times a day, that I did something, I'm still doing something that not a lot of people are comfortable enough to do. And I try to enjoy the most little things, even if it's walking in the street, going to the supermarket, the most stupid things you can think of, and just live and enjoy my experience and kind of let life lead me, I think, because I promised myself before coming here that I'm going to say yes to opportunities, to almost everything. Of course, things that are comfortable for me, not things that are not, but then I'm going to say more yes than no to stuff. And then I'm going to let go of my, I don't have to work in what I've studied. This is something that I also had to kind of practice in my head about, because I feel like you get a college degree and then you're like, okay, let's not waste this. Let's work in this. And I told myself, if you have an opportunity to work in something else, take it. And it sounds interesting to you, take it. If you are invited into like this social event and you don't know anyone there, do it. These are stuff that I never did in Israel. they were very hard for me to do. And I feel like the setting here just makes you, maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I promise myself to say more yes to stuff and to do as much stuff that are taking me out of my comfort zone. So I kind of now, if a few months ago, doing stuff that are out of my comfort zone were terrifying for me, and there still are, now I'm trying to take like this gut feeling that terrifies me and like kind of trying to push me from doing stuff. And I tell myself, are you feeling uncomfortable? Do it. This is the right thing to do. It could be social things, it could be dating, it could be job interviews for stuff that I think I'm maybe underqualified to do. Anything, just do it. And this is my plan for being here. And this is my plan for being here. I want to do as much stuff that I'm uncomfortable with. I want to say yes to things, and I want to let life lead me, because if I took the decision and moved abroad already, maybe like it's big in itself, but I'm trying to tell myself that if I need to rephrase that in my head. If you already did it, then just like try to like go with it and like let the universe just like bring your opportunities and take them or don't take them. But maybe the things that I think I want are not the things that I need. And I really, really try to tell this to myself every day. If it's people that I might have never like met in Israel, but I meet them here, and at first sight I'm like, I don't think I would ever become friends with this person if I was in a different setting. But then I tell myself, okay, get to know them. Not what you want is not exactly not necessarily what you need, or jobs, or anything, really anything. And it's just a constant stepping out of your comfort zone and saying yes to things and realizing that this is something bigger than me, and just embracing everything in the way.
That's great. I think that it's a great approach, because most people are just, when you live in your own country with your own childhood friends and the things it's very easy to stay kind of stuck in your ways, and living abroad, even if it's temporary, pushes you to do things that are outside of your comfort zone. It's a giant part of what this podcast is all about. Like, it's about revolution from your bed, to step out of comfort zones, to step out of thing that scares you. And I think that as long as you're not defining a trip as a trip, if you say, I'm living here, something happened in your head. I wanted to ask you, because you had this switch in your head, because I knew you all your life as a very organized person. Do you think that the fact that you had a student startup, like you and two of your classmates had or still have actually, a digital health startup that started as a part of a course in uni and was part of an accelerator. Do you think that being an entrepreneur opened your mind to do more adventurous things?
I think you become an entrepreneur because you have a mindset that leads you into it. So I think being an entrepreneur, in general, I feel like traits that you have as a person affect, let's say you're a jealous person in relationships, in romantic relationships. This could affect all of your life aspects. Or if you're, I don't know, if you're a cheap person in relationships, this would affect relationships, not only with your partner, but like with everyone in your life. So I feel like maybe it's not a good example, but what I was trying to say is that I think being an entrepreneur is not a trait, but it's like I think I became an entrepreneur because I was always a person who just thought a little bit bigger than others. I remember being a kid and sitting with my best friend in our parents' house porch late at night, and we had this thing where we would sit for hours in the dark and think about how to invent stuff that weren't invented yet. And I always go back to this story because I feel like it started my entrepreneurial journey. But to answer your question, I think I like doing the startup and becoming an entrepreneur. I never became an entrepreneur. I think I was always an entrepreneur in my mindset. And as I said, being an entrepreneur in business and like developing a startup, starting a startup, is just like a side effect for the person that you are, from your basis. So I don't think being an entrepreneur is what brought me here or made me want to do this. I think my personality is what brought me here, and also what made me an entrepreneur with startups, which I will say that I don't know where the startup is going, and like, but I feel like once you start these things, like once you start like startups and you found startups, and it's just like it never ends with one thing. It's just like the beginning of other things that I think I will do in the future.
Sometimes I wish this, we call it like a bug, or this urge will stop. I tried to take a break once for a few months, and then I saw an episode of Silicon Valley, the comedy about the Silicon Valley startups, and then I thought I have to do it again. Like, this is something that is innate in us, and it's very, very interesting because some people think that our entrepreneurs are made, and everybody I meet basically that ask me about life in Israel think that they teach us from the mother kind of milk to be entrepreneurs, and it's not true. I think that maybe now in the late, maybe less 10 years or so, there are programs more for teenagers, school entrepreneurship. When I grew up, there was nothing about it. Actually, I was always mocked and bullied for having a lot of ideas and trying to solve problems. And I think that what happened to Israeli people is that because we are facing a different reality than other people, and we have the necessity, so we have these traits, but not everybody is an entrepreneur. And of course, that a lot of people are trying something entrepreneurial and decide, okay, I need to do like to find a 9-to-5 corporate job. For me, it just never worked for me. Of course, not with my illness, not with my life. And I think that it can always only do you good, because you're going to fail most of the times, but you learn a lot. And it's very interesting because you still have a digital health startup trying to solve the no-show phenomena in healthcare systems. No-show phenomena is the fact that in many countries there is a huge problem that the actual appointments with the doctors are not filled.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of money, and it prevents access to care from other patients.
No, people just don't show up to.
They don't show up to the appointment. So it's a huge problem. It's one of my expertise, this topic. So it's a huge problem, and it's commendable that you chose something. You could have chosen something very easy, which is also interesting. And I think that it also showed that you are very adventurous, because you could have easily chose it, like one of your professors said, do it for a cosmetician appointment or something super easy, but not for the hardest part. Like, it was the hardest startup field is health tech, and I think that the fact that you chose this one was kind of a preparation for you to this experimental field of life. But I want to kind of ask you, why did you choose your field of study? Because it's very rare in the world. I've seen only a handful of programs like this. It's called instructional design. Could you say a few words about it and why specifically you chose it? Because you have a lot of other interests. You went to pastry school before doing your degree for 1 year. You love to cook, you love to bake, you like fashion, you love this coffee house style of life, and you chose a profession which is very focused in bringing knowledge into the hands of people in different engaging ways. So I would love to hear more about that.
So my degree, as I said, it's called Instructional Design and Technologies. It's basically a combination of training development and graphic design, UX, UI, these fields. and programming. And this combination creates people who specialize in developing digital training materials. You specialize in actually creating the content and organizing it and building curriculums, and then deciding on how you're going to develop it. Like if it's going to be some sort of a technology, it could be a game, it could be a presentation, it could be an interactive tutorial, it could be a video. We kind of learn these technologies and how to develop them, because learning and studying today has become very not traditional. Like there's no more pen and paper sitting in front of a teacher. I mean, there is, but we specialize in doing it for organizations, and especially after COVID, is something that started before COVID, but especially after COVID, I feel like organizations just needed this more and more, because work from home culture started and people are not anymore coming physically to offices, and you still need to train your employees and do stuff, and it's just not working anymore with you sitting, even if it's on Zoom, you sitting and talking to people and teaching them something. It's also a form of transferring knowledge, but there are so many cooler stuff that you could do, and this is what I do. And I kind of rolled into it by accident, I would say. As you said, I have a lot of things that I love in life, and I kind of just rolled into it by accident. I was all over, but not really, because if you kind of connect the dots of things that I like, you will see that it's all around creative stuff and like creating stuff. And I was always more humanic than realistic. That's how you say it.
Yeah.
I just translated it from Hebrew. I knew I wanted to do something in the field of creating stuff, designing. I was always into graphic designing. I was self-taught since I was a kid. I taught myself how to use Photoshop, and I built websites, and I was kind of always into these things. And when I was looking for a field to study in college, I was drew into visual communications because of my passion for graphic design and creating stuff. But then I was like, I want something that is more practical for me. And then I've kind of just came across this degree, which was at the time my college was the only one who offered this. And in Israel, it was the only one who did it for years already at the time. So, I mean, you worked at the institute that I went to, and I had a friend who studied it. There was not a lot of information about it online, so I kind of just rolled into it by accident, and I love this field. I feel like you could do so much with it, and you can go into so many different organizations and jobs, and you gain so many tools that are relevant to a lot of things. So this is what I'm doing today. Also, I work for an NGO in Israel, and I do their digital training development from scratch. I'm the only one who does that. And this is my professional profession, if I may. But I'm into a lot of other things also. So
I think it's a great base, because a lot of degrees are very focused. And the problem many universities have is that they're teaching something that already is outdated. And this degree is one of the only degrees in Israel. I knew because I used to work in the Holon Institute of Technology, where is leading this field in Israel, where you studied in this department. And it was the only department that there were more demand for graduates in terms of in the job market than the actual applicants. And I think that because we have a lot of listeners that are very young and try to understand what they want to do with their life, I think it's a wonderful combination that when you study it, you can do a lot with it. It's everything regarding digital, like apps, websites, materials, training development, the pedagogic teaching aspects, the product management, the UX, UI. I think it's a very interesting subject. And maybe if I were to be young now and had these options, I might do this as well, because I don't necessarily think that, for instance, we have now our degrees in digital health, but I don't think that people who study digital health are necessarily experts in digital health. I think that sometimes it's better to study something that open your mind, and of course this is very professional, but open your horizons to new things. Like my bachelor is basically education and biology. And I learned a lot about the human spirit by learning education and preventive sciences, because education is all about helping people grow, not only learn. And this is something that people kind of make a mistake. And I think the training development part and the human development part is very important. And biology taught me a lot about the human body, but also our surroundings. And I think that you take it everywhere with you. Like sometimes people think that, oh, I studied this course and it's not serving me. I think that even if you study, I don't know, you do a diving course or yoga training course, it stays with you. It's part of your skill sets. And I wish more people would see it. And regarding this professional choice, because eventually you're very young still, and you are interpreting your own degree into more of the UX side, because you really are into the design aspects of it. But I think my last questions for you for today, and then there is maybe something that I want to ask you to ask me, is basically, when you are now, you graduate, you find a job, basically you have trainings, you are in a new country. Like, what is your dream or biggest aspiration if you combine everything we talked about today?
I think something I realized in the past few months, I think I always had it in my head, but I think kind of just got more vivid in the past few months, maybe since being here, maybe since I was talking to a lot of people, is that my profession or my professional choices does not have to be my main thing in life. I try to, I think it is very important. Whatever you're going to work in is going to affect, even if it's going to be part-time, it's going to affect your life, even after 9 to 5. But I'm trying not to make, at least for talking for my next few months or years, I feel like what I'm going to do is not my, professionally, is not my goal, is just a way for me to, I'm trying to rephrase that again. So my profession is not my end goal, what I'm going to work in here. It's just a part of my journey, and it's a way for me to get money and kind of live, if I may. But I am trying to put more weight into other things that I like, and not make my profession, my career, my goal in life. I'm into, as you said, I'm into a lot of stuff, and I want to give them, not equal, but I want to give them weight too. I feel like people are putting a lot of weight on what they're doing, and they're making it their main focus, which is great. If it's your biggest passion in life, then go ahead and do it. But I feel like for a lot of people, what they're doing professionally might not be their biggest passion. They have other passions too. So I feel like you should not, at least if you can, as long as you can allow it to yourself. I mean, if you have family and you have to bring money home, like an X amount of money, like I can allow this myself because I'm still young and I'm single and I have this privilege. But I'm trying not to put my career in my in the first place and not put all my efforts in it, but to kind of divide my effort into other stuff too, and put in other stuff that are important for me, even if they're not professionally leading me anywhere. But I have to add to what you said. I feel like everything you will do in life, even if it looks like it's taking a yoga lessons and thinking maybe this is not something that could serve me in my professional life. But if it's all a matter of how you look at stuff. I personally try to look at things, everything that I'm doing, as beneficial to other aspects in life too. I could go into a museum one afternoon and look at the pictures and the art and be like, and get inspired to do stuff in my job.
Yeah.
Or I could use the fact that I'm working out in the gym and lifting more weight and going consistently. I can use like this thing as an inspiration for me to be consistent and to become better in other stuff in life too. So I feel like everything you do connects with everything, and it's all a matter of how you look at it. There is nothing you do in life that is completely detached from other things in your life. I mean, you is a whole that is built from different experiences and stuff that you're doing. And once you find the connections between those things, even if they look completely not connected to each other, I feel like this is where life are become like very interesting and very fun. And I think this is a truly form of self-development, that you kind of embrace everything you have in life and find beauty in everything and find impact in everything. And yeah, so I feel like it doesn't really matter what I'm going to do professionally, as long as I'm having fun and it serves me into. I won't look, and even if I work in something, I'm not going to look at it as only a form of a source of money, but also try to take it into as many other things in life as I can and like make it bigger than what it is.
I think that we have a lot to learn from your generation, because it's the first generation that had the privilege of really like turning something that was, a few times in the life, like going abroad, to something that is almost mundane, or, something that is routine. And you're the first generation who kind of rebel against the laws of work in terms of, or the rules of work, that you put your mindfulness first. And I think that it's very important what you said, because it's very well said that your profession does not define you. Like, you're not your shirt, you're not your profession. People sometimes say, I am a doctor. It's very funny, because when you look at psychology, like, I think the only thing that we are is probably a human. And I'm a human who is like a doctor, a dentist, I don't know, a lawyer. I think that we have professional choices, but we are a pack, and you come from the design fields, and a designer is not working in vacuum. You have tools. Like, if you want, you need elements to create picture. You need colors, and you collect them with you. And I think it's a very beautiful way to look at life when you actually collect things. And when I'm in a good mental health, I am also allowing myself to be inspired by everything around me. Walking in the street or a supermarket, meeting people, watching things outside or inside. And it builds like the final picture out of these millions or thousands of little pixels. And to end this wonderful episode, I have a little tradition that I let the guest ask me the final question, whatever they want, and they're never prepared. It can be about my life or work, like, me personally, of course, but it can also be something that is completely like related to this episode. You can ask like, what do you think about this aspect, or so on. So feel free to ask me anything.
I'm very bad at these things. I like improvising something just out of my sleeve. Maybe the first thing that comes to my mind is, when was the last time you did something that was completely like not connected to what you're doing in your daily life, like professionally, that inspired you to go back and do something in your professional career?
That's super interesting. Um, I think that when you look at the world like this, you can inspire yourself with everything that you do. The problem with my job is that everybody is sick in some way or form. So even if I did a random karaoke meetup in Vienna.
Mm-hmm.
It was extremely hot. I felt like shit, in the karaoke there are no air conditions here whatsoever. Like there are, but it's very rare indoors. And even there, when I felt uncomfortable to meet new people, there was somebody who told me about their chronic illness. So if I think about what I'm doing, I think that the thing that really, really inspired me to do something different was actually when I was gaming last time. It sounds strange because it's one of my ways to remain in touch, in contact with my Israeli college friends. We game a few times a week. And I was gaming one night, and people sometimes think it's very repetitive, but actually it's kind of a gateway for men sometimes to talk about things they will not talk over beer. And by the conversation from the people, I realized that we are not only not empowered as patients. Is something that I'm talking about. I'm going to have an entire whole different podcast about it. I think that the main conversation led me to believe that people are living in a loop. It just came out of one game because people were enjoying themselves, but I realized that they're really hanging on to those moments in life to enjoy. Kind of like you need this moment or this hobby to feel like yourself or to disconnect. And then I realized, what if we can all be waking up, to experience life in a different way, in the optimal way, in a different mindset of change. And as somebody who lost almost a decade of his life in bed, this moment was kind of a eureka moment for me to realize that my job is not only important for people with chronic illness or the people who take care of them, but it's important for everybody. And I think that what you're doing is kind of an example of how to not fall into this loop trap, because most of the people that I know are living a life that are not their life. It's like kind of borrowed life, and they don't have the guts to do what we did. And of course that, it's not easy to anyone to make a change in life. But when you take this leap of faith, like you said, and you said, my reality is something that I control. Life is not happening to me, but I am the master of my own life. I can be a designer also there. I can be designing my own life and letting myself to be inspired and being open-minded. Even dating in another country, even if it's not leading to marriage, it teaches you so much about people and
Right.
about yourself. Because we cannot only sit at home and read self-development books and hope life will be better. I think we really have to go there and do something. And I really love this approach when people are doing entrepreneurial stuff, mindful stuff, like self-care stuff, but they always have these connections. And I want to end by saying that you want to have your own business eventually.
I do.
I think that a lot of young people in their 20s, they are expected to do in one decade everything to bring them when they're 30 to this complete life. You're married, sometimes you have kids, you have the job, you have the career, like
kind of figure out everything.
Everything. I think it's completely bullcrap. I think that you cannot expect people to figure out everything in this decade because you put so much pressure on them, but rather make as much experiences. I love it when my wife is always saying this, that life is about creating experiences and learning from them and growing from them. And you make as many experiences as you can. And then you figure out who you are. The most interesting people that I meet, sometimes you think, oh, it's this 20-something-year-old founder who sold the company. No. Like usually these people that I met a lot of those, there is a deficiency there. There is a sort of compulsive or obsessive or self-harming behavior to be a millionaire or to do something. There is a price, either in relationship, health, self-care. There is a price. But if I were you, I would actually use the time to work as many jobs as I can, learning from other people, learning from other founders' mistake because you want to start your own business, being cushioned. And this is what I actually love about university. It's like a glass house that you can grow in, because if you only go to the lessons, you're not learning, like you're doing university wrong. Do any activities that is extracurricular.
Exactly.
Like I was in the student union, I was volunteering, I was organizing stuff, everything, because nobody expects you to do anything other than study when you're in university, and use those years to actually figure out what you want to do. I figured out after 2 or 3 weeks, I was never going to be like an ecologist or environmental scientist, because of these courses I took. And I figure out, I am an entrepreneur. Health is the thing matter to me the most. And for you, I think that what you're doing is super great because you allow yourself to be yourself. And I want you to kind of help me summarize this beautiful conversation by adding your thoughts to that.
I very much agree about what you said about college, university. And I feel like this is something that is important to everything you do in life. As I started saying earlier, the way you take it and the way you decide how it's going to look. I mean, when I got into college, I decided I'm gonna go out of here with a degree, right? So this is something I already have. I'm gonna come to classes, do my tasks. I already have that in 3 years from now. But what can I do to make the most out of this experience? So I will not go out of college with only my degree, because I feel like, as you said, it is such a good environment to meet new people and take part in activities. And I was also doing this in high school. I really wanted to just be able to go out with the non-obvious thing out of it. And I feel like if you take this approach to anything you do in life, sometimes the thing you came for doesn't even matter anymore. I have my degree. I have no idea if I'm going to work in it. I love this field, but I don't know where life is going to take me. And I feel like the people I've met in the programs that I took part in, and the entrepreneurship things that started kind of officially in college, these things are more significant to me than getting a profession or a title. As I said earlier about people calling themselves doctors, or, I mean, when you get the title and you get the BA or the MA or the PhD, it's all fun and stuff, and it's very, very
short-lived.
It's beautiful. It's very fun, to get a recognition of what you achieved. But this is just one part of you. This is gonna sound stupid, but on my Instagram bio, up until 2 weeks ago, I had my name. I had I wrote that I live in Vienna, and then I wrote that I'm a digital learning developer. This is my official title.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, I erased it, because as much as I was proud of my profession and what I'm doing, I was like, I'm so much more than that.
Absolutely.
People who are, Instagram today is like your digital kind of
portfolio, whatever. Yeah.
And although it's not a professional portfolio for me, it's just like people who come across my profile and see this line, like I cannot use this like 250 letters bio to write everything that
Absolutely.
I am. So I'm like, I am Chen. This is who I am. This is where I live, and this is it. Like I'm so much more than that, and I think this is a very big, like this is something that regardless of that, I think you are just a whole, and you're built from different experiences and stuff that you do, and this is all a matter of how you approach these things. If you're only coming for the end result, or you're coming to enjoy the ride and taking as much things on the way as you can. And yeah,
such a beautifully way to finish it. Like you're a traveler, and
it never ends. Like I'm not gonna find. I know I'm still in my mid-20s, but I'm not gonna find answers to everything in this age. But I do know that I'm doing as much as I can to make the most out of my 20s. I hope.
You cannot be a 25-year-old with the mind of a 90-year-old because you haven't experienced the things. And my partner, she's studying to be a psychotherapist, and she's working with old people as part of her practical training, and she loves sitting with them. She's even right now meeting an elderly person, and she said you can learn so much from people, and all they did was living their lives. And that's why I think that also this idea of a digital nomad is such a bad connotation, because I was about to use digital nomad in the title of this podcast, because that's what you are technically, because you're working remotely. But I think that a nomad is somebody who has no home and is drifting away. I think that you're more like a traveler, and you're just like, in order to grow, you need to collect experiences.
Yeah.
And I think that eventually, I wish I had this wisdom when I was that age, because the only way to really experience that life is just to experience them. And a lot of people are staying in their confinement. It doesn't have to be like a lot of people that listen to us are sick, they're bedridden or home-ridden. You can make a lot of growth from home. Like I didn't have YouTube when my illness started. I didn't have this social media. But eventually, it's stepping out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
And I think this is what the 20s are all about, to be as uncomfortable as you can. And I'm super proud of myself for, I lived in a few countries already, and I took leaps of faith. Like I'm not longer, like you said, like my Instagram is not a title. I'm not Roy, the startup, like health startup entrepreneur. Like it took me years to realize that it's okay to not try to title yourself, but just to be who you are, and to have something that you fight for, or something that you're passionate enough to try to move the world for.
Yeah.
And it's okay even if you're not, because I know people that are much more complete than me, that are introverts, just love to stay at home and live there is this amazing culture. And I will have a guest this season that is living in the cozy culture, that like they just game cozy, watch cozy things, read cozy things, because I think this is something that is also needed. And there is no one way, but the only way is to stay on a way to something. I think that this conversation taught me much more than I expected, because I thought I knew everything about you that I need to know. So this is really great, and I'm super proud of you for the woman you become and becoming. Super happy that you came to live next to me. It's very tasty to me when you do amazing stuff. But also, I think it's an amazing adventure for you, and I wish you good luck with everything that you choose. And for you, our listeners, thank you so much for hanging on. If you have questions for Chen, I will add her social media here below. And I see you next time. Thank you, Chen.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.